Thursday evening. She stands in front of the hallway mirror, tilting her chin just slightly as she smooths the front of her blouse. Crimson silk, not her usual workwear. Red heels. Lipstick with a sharper edge than she usually wears to networking dinners. That perfume. The subtle one she saves for evenings when I'm supposedly already asleep before she gets home. Not her usual spritz and go. No, this time she took her time. Rolled her neck. Looked herself over twice. Then she turned toward me like she was giving a weather report. "Don't wait up tonight," she said. Like it was nothing. Like it was the 100th time. Like I hadn't been waiting up for years. I didn't flinch. Didn't lean forward or tilt my head like I had some interest in her answer. I just sat in my chair, flicked my eyes up once from the page I was pretending to read, and said calmly, "Tell Mark I said hi." And I swear to God, her soul stepped out of her body for half a second. She froze mid-step, heels inches from the threshold. That smile she always wore, the one that made me feel like the world's dullest man, flickered for the first time. Her jaw twitched. Not enough for the average man to notice. But I did. Because I was the average man until that moment. The good husband. The reliable provider. The fool who believed in errands that took too long and friends I never met. But now, I wasn't guessing anymore. She didn't speak. Didn't spin some lie. She just stood there, holding the doorknob, as if debating whether walking out was worth the risk of confirming everything I just implied. I watched the back of her neck flush red. The thing is, you don't need yelling. You don't need a scene. You need one sentence that lands in the center of her little house of lies like a match in dry grass. She left anyway. Not a word. Just the soft click of the door and the muffled sound of her heels disappearing down the front steps. And I didn't follow. Didn't peer out the blinds. Didn't wonder which car she'd get into this time. I already knew. Mark. Finance guy. Smiles too big. Smells like cigar cover-up and thinks shaking your hand twice in a conversation makes him likable. I wasn't always like this, you know. I used to ask questions. Used to believe answers. Used to chalk up the late nights to career hustle. But after enough lipstick stains on wine glasses we didn't own and unfamiliar cologne clinging to the air in our bathroom, something shifts. You stop fighting for answers and start collecting the silence. Silence tells you more than words ever will. And here's the part they don't tell you: silence isn't weakness. It's preparation. If you're still here listening, do me a small favor. Tap subscribe. Over 97% don't. But it helps our little team stay motivated to keep telling these stories. And frankly, knowing I'm not the only one who's lived through something like this, it helps. Anyway, that night I didn't rage. Didn't text. Didn't even pour myself a drink. I just stood up, turned off the porch light, and walked into my den. Sat at my desk, where I'd been preparing for this exact moment for the last 6 months. She thought I didn't know. She thought her web was flawless. But I'm not the man she married anymore. I'm the man who's about to quietly dismantle everything she thinks she owns. After the door shuts behind her, I don't move right away. I let the silence settle like dust after a demolition. The house still smells faintly like her perfume. Some designer bottle I paid for, chosen carefully to feel expensive and mature. The kind that announces itself before the wearer does. And it lingers, just like her lies. I finish my coffee, not in a rush. Then I walk into the den, shut the door behind me, and turn on the lamp with the blown bulb. Because it's not the lamp I need. It's what's under the desk. I pull out a small black case from the cabinet, click it open, and take out the encrypted drive I've been using for months. Plug it into my laptop. While it boots, I slide open the interface for the house security system. Only the one she knows about. The official one. The one connected to the app on her phone. Useless because she's careful enough to park offsite now. I'm sure she thinks that's clever. But then I bring up the other feed. The one she doesn't know exists. 3 months ago, I installed a tiny wireless cam inside the plastic planter near the mailbox. Took me 15 minutes and a lie about wanting to watch the neighborhood cats for some stupid online wildlife contest. She laughed. Thought it was another one of my harmless hobbies like model trains or woodworking YouTube videos. I let her believe that. Hell, I let her set the thing on the porch herself. I cue up the footage. There it is. 6:47 p.m. Her heels clack down the walk. She takes one last look over her shoulder. Paranoid, but not paranoid enough. She walks to the corner. Not our driveway. Not even our street. A black Audi pulls up. License plate ending in 39K. Mark. Door opens. She slides in like she's done it 100 times. Because she has. I zoom in. License plate, timestamp, angle clean as a confession. She thinks she's being discreet. It would be funny if it weren't so disgusting. I rewind again and again, making sure I have it from every possible second. Then I sync the file with the master folder on my local drive. The folder is named something bland, HVAC reports. If she ever got curious, she'd lose interest before the third click. But inside are 7 subfolders, each labeled with a different fake invoice number. Each one contains videos, images, GPS pings, metadata, and a running document of every detail I've collected over the past 6 months. Because I didn't need to confront her. I needed to outlast her. I back everything up. First to the external drive. Then to a second copy I keep in a fireproof box in the garage, taped under the false bottom of a toolbox she's never touched. And the third? That one goes to a secure cloud link, shared with a lawyer in another state. A man I've never met, referred by a friend whose wife tried to rob him blind with a smile on her face. That third copy? I labeled it Insurance, Accidental Release. And before you think that's overkill, let me explain something about women like my wife. They play dirty without looking down. They bank on the idea that you'll be too stunned, too slow, too decent to react in time. But I'm not stunned anymore. And I'm definitely not slow. I've learned that revenge doesn't need a scream. It needs a file folder, a spreadsheet, and quiet timing. Because when she finally figures out how much I know, I want her to understand just how long I've been watching. The third chess move came with all the grace of checking a pulse. No emotion, no hesitation, just precision. I logged into the old credit union account we hadn't touched in nearly 5 years. The kind of joint savings you forget about when the honeymoon glow fades and the real budgeting begins. Back then, we opened it with big dreams, vacations, renovations, maybe a second home someday. That version of us didn't survive past year 7. But the account? Still there, still active, and most importantly, still had her name on it. That's the funny part. She thinks I'm the forgetful one. The guy who loses his reading glasses, leaves the garage light on, double books our dinner plans. But there I was, remembering the routing number for an account she hadn't looked at since Obama was in office. I checked the balance. 26 grand. Not life-changing, but not pocket change either. Enough to matter. Enough to hurt. She never removed her name. Never moved it to a solo account. Why would she? She never thought she'd need to. That's the thing about people who lie with ease. They assume the people they lie to won't ever grow teeth. I transferred out half. Clean, simple, documented. No tricks. I wasn't stealing, just reclaiming what was already mine. She can fight it if she wants. The logs will show I only took my share. Next, I opened a new savings account in my name only, different bank. Different branch. No paper statements. All online. And the security questions? She'd never guess in 1,000 years. She thinks my favorite teacher was Mr. Jenkins. It wasn't. It was Mrs. Navarro. 8th grade geometry. She taught me how to see patterns, how to think 5 moves ahead. From there, I moved on to the utilities. Gas, electric, water. Each one had our names listed as joint holders. I changed them, took her off, switched the billing cycle, set up autopay through the new account. Cable and internet were trickier. She'd set those up herself years ago, bundled through some half-baked loyalty program she never finished registering. I waited until she was out one afternoon and called pretending to be her. Changed the passwords. Switched the contact number. It worked. You'd be surprised how little security these companies really need once you sound confident enough. Next came the credit cards. The joint ones. The ones we used for groceries, flights, furniture she insisted we needed. I didn't close them right away, no, that'd be sloppy. I rerouted all the auto payments to new, personal cards I'd opened in my name. Quietly. No fanfare. No hard inquiries that would alert her email. Then I paid off the balances on the joint cards using my portion of the old savings. Left them at 0. 2 weeks later, I canceled them. By then, everything had already migrated to my solo accounts. She got the notice in the mail. Probably thought it was fraud protection or a corporate update. Didn't ask me about it once. Meanwhile, I created a spreadsheet, full breakdown. Assets, debts, monthly expenditures. All color-coded. All time-stamped. And I stored it with the rest of the growing file. The one labeled when she notices. But she didn't, because she never checks statements anymore. Her world is Apple Pay, Uber receipts, makeup subscriptions, and dinners with men who pretend she's still 30. She doesn't know that half of our accounts have already gone dark. That her name has been quietly erased from our household one service at a time. I'm unplugging her life, wire by wire, like a technician disassembling a bomb. The beauty of it? She thinks I'm distracted, bored, too slow to catch up. That I'm still fumbling with the remote while she's out building connections. She has no idea I've already started building something too. A life without her. And by the time she finally goes looking for the money, the names, the control, it'll be like chasing ghosts. The conference room didn't look like the kind of place where marriages end. No grand oak desks or mahogany shelves full of heavy legal tomes. Just a small round table, a coffee machine in the corner, and floor-to-ceiling windows that let the cold gray light spill in from downtown like a warning. My lawyer, Janine, wasn't what I expected. No harsh blazer, no glasses perched on the tip of her nose. She wore a simple black dress, no jewelry, hair pulled back in a loose knot. Her eyes, though, they were sharp, calculating, the kind of eyes that saw through polite smiles and got to the bone of things. She sat across from me, silent, as I plugged in the drive and opened the folder labeled HVAC reports. Took her all of 30 seconds to realize what she was looking at. I didn't say much, just let the videos play. Mark's car pulling up, my wife getting in, same spot 3 different nights, close-up stills, timestamps, matching those against calendar invites she'd emailed to herself about work dinners and women in finance panels. The way Janine leaned forward during the third clip, when the living room camera caught my wife pouring wine into our wedding anniversary glasses, told me everything I needed to know. When the last video ended, she clicked the laptop shut and looked at me. No judgment, no faux sympathy, just one sentence. This won't be loud, but it'll be permanent. I nodded. We got to work. She asked me for documents, bank statements, tax returns, credit card summaries. I handed her a folder, every page sorted, labeled, notarized. She raised an eyebrow. You've been preparing. No, I said. I've been surviving. She smiled at that, thin, professional, and began laying out options. I didn't want revenge. Not in the traditional sense. No dramatic court scenes. No explosive arguments in front of friends or family. What I wanted was subtraction. Quiet subtraction. Strip away everything she hadn't earned. Leave behind only what belonged to her, which, as it turns out, wasn't much. We started with the property. The house was bought with my inheritance, pre-marriage. I still had the original deed notarized and filed. That was going to be a wall she couldn't climb. Next came the car. Her SUV, leased in my name, insured through my business. Not a single bill had ever hit her account. The brokerage accounts? Mine. The 401k? Mine. Even the furniture she picked out on a whim during those binge redecorating phases. Guess who paid in full every time? Janine drafted the initial filing that day. Infidelity. With documentation. Clear, defined language. Her tone was careful, meticulous without being cruel. It wasn't about punishing my wife. It was about protection. Strategic retreat. Walk out clean, not bleeding. We talked alimony. I asked what her odds were of winning support. Janine gave a small shrug. With this footage, this paper trail, if she has a good judge, she might walk away with a few throw pillows. It was the first time in weeks I smiled. We agreed not to serve the papers immediately. Timing mattered. I wanted her relaxed. I wanted her overconfident. And I wanted every single piece of leverage stacked neatly in my corner before she saw what was coming. On the way out, Janine handed me a checklist. Items to monitor. Habits to document. Emails to forward. It was methodical, like gutting a house before a renovation. And make no mistake, I wasn't walking away from this with wounds. I was rebuilding. Outside, I stood on the sidewalk for a moment. The city moved around me. Traffic humming, people on phones, coffee cups in hand. I'd walked the street 100 times over the years, usually to buy flowers, or pick up takeout, or wait for her outside some boutique she loved but never bought anything from. Funny how a place can feel different once you start seeing the truth. I didn't feel triumphant. Not yet. What I felt was direction, a weight shifting from my chest to my feet. I was finally moving with purpose. And the best part? She still thought I was asleep at the wheel. She had no idea the man she left behind that night was already 5 steps ahead, drawing the blueprint to a life without her fingerprints on a single wall. It was a Tuesday morning when I floated the idea. We were sitting at the kitchen island, She with her ever-present iced coffee. 2 pumps of hazelnut, oat milk, no foam. Scrolling through her phone like she didn't live in a house with another person. I dropped it into the silence like a pebble in still water. "Hey," I said, setting down the newspaper I hadn't actually been reading. "What do you think about a weekend away? Just us. Maybe the mountains. Disconnect. Talk." She didn't even look up. Just took a long sip and muttered, This quarter's insane. Everyone's burning out. Maybe next month." I nodded slowly. "Sure. Next month." That was the moment I knew she'd take the bait. She always wanted plausible deniability. Saying no without saying no. Turning down intimacy without making it a fight. That way, she could still pretend it was timing, not interest, that kept us apart. But she forgot something important. I used to know her better than anyone. Still do. I waited 2 days. Let it sit. Then I told her I had an old friend hosting a guys-only retreat in northern Vermont. Some rustic wellness thing. With cabins, fishing, no Wi-Fi. She didn't ask which friend. Didn't ask where. Just nodded and said, "Oh, that'll be good for you." I watched her say it while scrolling Zillow on her phone. Flipping through houses she'd never buy. I left on a Friday. Packed light. Left my phone's location services disabled. No check-ins. No texts. She never called to ask if I'd arrived safely. That silence? That wasn't just a detail. That was a confession. The house, of course, wasn't empty. Not entirely. 2 hours before I left, I installed a small, motion-activated camera tucked inside the vent of the living room bookshelf. I'd custom-ordered it from a private security supplier. No Wi-Fi required. It recorded straight to an internal drive, encrypted, and labeled by date. I also left a bottle of her favorite wine out on the counter. Corked. 2 glasses next to it. I made the house look lonely. By Saturday evening, my system pinged me with a motion alert, set to forward clips to a cloud folder every time it detected movement longer than 20 seconds. I didn't watch the clips until I was back. I already knew what I'd see. I just wanted the timestamp. Sunday afternoon, I returned, let myself in quietly, just before she expected me. I could smell the cologne before I even stepped into the living room. Something too spicy, too eager. Not mine. The wine bottle was gone. Glasses rinsed and placed haphazardly in the rack. Hers always ended up crooked. The couch cushions were out of place. The throw blanket she never used was suddenly folded differently. Mark had been here. Again. Like clockwork. Later that night, while she was catching up on invoices upstairs, I sat in the den and watched the footage. 6:17 p.m. Front door unlocks. 6:19 p.m. Mark enters. Smiling. Carrying takeout bags like he lives here. 6:34 p.m. They're sitting on the couch. Legs touching. 6:56 p.m. She laughs. Loudly. Louder than she's laughed with me in a decade. 7:12 p.m. His hands on her thigh. 7:28 p.m. She gets up. Motions toward the bedroom. 7:29 p.m. The video ends because I didn't need more. Not for what I was building. I archived it. Stored it in a folder named Weekend Renewal. Backed it up to the same 3 places. She still had no idea. That night, she asked me if I had a good time. I smiled. Said it was peaceful. She smiled back. Said I looked more relaxed. Asked if I wanted to do a movie night sometime soon. "Oh," I said. "Let's maybe wait till next month." Mirroring her line back so gently she didn't even register it. She kissed me on the cheek like nothing had changed. But everything had. She was building fantasies in my house with another man. I was building her exit strategy. And the beautiful part? She was still helping without knowing. It started with small things. A lack of questions. The absence of tension. Most people think relationships unravel in arguments, slam doors, and ultimatums. Ours? It started to decay in the silence between casual observations. In how little I said. And how little she noticed until she did. The first time she paused was on a Thursday night. She came home late. Too late for a team dinner. Still in full makeup, shoes in her hand like some teen sneaking back into her parents' house. I didn't ask where she'd been. Didn't look at her. Just flipped a page in my book and kept reading. She lingered in the doorway longer than usual. "You're not going to ask?" I looked up, blinked once. "Ask what?" Her mouth opened, then shut. She gave a small laugh, like I was being cute, then walked upstairs. That was the moment she felt it. Not guilt, she's not wired for that. What she felt was disorientation. The rules were shifting. Her sense of control was slipping, and she didn't know why. The next morning, I made coffee for myself only. No cinnamon in hers. No almond milk. I ate toast in silence and left the paper folded on the counter. Headline up. Housing market collapse, when foundations rot from the inside. She said, "You've been distant lately." I looked over my glasses. Shrugged. "Just tired." She nodded like she bought it. But I saw the flicker in her eyes. Like maybe she was starting to understand she wasn't the only one keeping secrets. That night, I didn't fall asleep on the couch. I stayed up. Not to wait for her. To work. I logged into the burner email account I'd created months ago and wrote to Janine. Uploaded footage. Weekend renewal. Updated assets list attached. Q3 brokerage statements. For 01K summary. Second property title, Arizona cabin. Finalized new account numbers. Disconnected all joint utilities. Confirmation PDFs attached. Confirmed delivery address for service packet. Then I uploaded a new clip to the secure drive. Mark and my wife walking hand in hand across the back patio. Barefoot. Laughing like the kind of couple that believes the world owes them softness. I named it Patio Trust Fall. It felt appropriate. I didn't feel much anymore. That was the shift. The part she didn't understand. First it was grief. Then anger. But now, it was math. A checklist. A system reboot. She kissed me on the cheek that weekend. Lightly. Cautiously. Like a woman testing water she once swam in but now finds unfamiliar. I didn't react. Didn't pull away. Just nodded and said I was going to bed early. But I didn't. I sat in the den and opened the spreadsheet again. Ran through my to detach column. Checked off the last 2 rows. Gym membership and car insurance. I was nearly done. The more I gave up pretending, the more I regained control. And still, she had no idea. She thought I was moody. Thought maybe I was slipping into some late life slump. She told a friend over the phone, speaker on, too loud, while she scrolled Instagram, that I was acting weird lately, like emotionally withdrawn or something. She didn't know she was using the exact phrase my therapist used during our first post-infidelity session years ago. Funny how she forgot that chapter. I didn't. Now she was seeing symptoms without understanding the disease. You see, when a man like me goes quiet, it's not because he's lost the will to fight. It's because he's already won. Sunday dinner had always been a performance. She'd cook the pot roast the way her mother taught her. Oven at 275, 2 hours longer than necessary, and always that damned rosemary sprig tied with kitchen twine. Her father would bring over a bottle of red that no one really liked but everyone pretended to enjoy. We'd set the table with cloth napkins she only used for occasions. Light the tapered candles, dim the chandelier. It was domestic theater and I used to play my part. But this time I played it differently. I helped set the table in silence. I folded her mother's napkin into a clean triangle, placed it just left of the plate. Same as always. But I didn't pour the wine this time. I let it sit. Her mother was already halfway through the second bite when she asked it. Casual, innocent, like most well-meaning bombs are. "So, are you two still planning that anniversary trip? What was it, Napa? Or Italy?" I didn't look up from my plate. Just sawed through the roast slowly and replied between chews. "Actually, we've been reevaluating a lot lately." Her mother nodded, politely confused. Her father grunted, probably thinking that meant we were changing airlines. But my wife, her fork froze midair, hovered like it forgot where it was supposed to land. She smiled quickly, too quickly, and said, "Oh, we haven't booked anything yet. Just timing stuff, you know how work is." I didn't say a word. I just reached for the salt, passed it to her dad, and kept chewing. The rest of the dinner played out like a poorly edited sitcom. Moments of small talk stitched together with long silences that used to be rare in this house. Her parents didn't notice much, too used to polite distance. But she noticed. Every minute that passed where I didn't reach for her hand. Every eye contact I avoided. Every empty sentence that used to be filled with warmth. After they left, she did the dishes alone. Her choice. She offered, almost too sweetly, "You can relax. I got it." I thanked her, went to the den, closed the door. An hour later, she appeared in the doorway, holding a tea mug she hadn't offered me. "So, what did you mean by reevaluating a lot lately?" I didn't look up from my laptop. "Just what it sounds like. Are you talking about the trip or everything, I guess?" She blinked. "Everything. I clicked my trackpad twice. Yep. A long pause. I could feel the panic stirring behind her eyes, even from 10 feet away. You've been off lately, she said carefully, like the words might trip and fall if she rushed them. I mean, I know we've both been busy, but, I asked, not even pretending to be curious. I want to understand what's going on. I closed the laptop, but not because I was done. Just because I wanted her to see the reflection of herself in the black screen behind me. You're asking a lot of questions for someone who stopped answering them months ago. She froze again. I stood, walked past her, and flicked off the hallway light on my way upstairs. Not out of cruelty, but to leave her standing there in the dark with only her thoughts for company. That night, she didn't come to bed right away. She sat downstairs, probably going over every conversation we'd had in the last 6 weeks. Every moment I didn't press her. Every time I smiled but didn't mean it. She was starting to understand that she'd lost something, and she didn't know how to get it back. Because what she didn't realize is that I wasn't trying to win anymore. I was just managing the clock, waiting for it to hit 0. It happened on a Tuesday, late morning. She was in the middle of a quarterly strategy session at her office, most likely droning through slides she didn't make, selling ideas she didn't believe in. Meanwhile, a man in a blue jacket and a calm expression walked past reception, asked for her by name, and handed her a plain white envelope. She signed, thanked him out of reflex. He didn't say a word. She waited until she was back at her desk before opening it. Thought it might be a contract, or a letter from a client. Something dull, something bureaucratic. It wasn't. Inside were divorce papers, 15 pages, neatly collated. Filed through Janine's office, already stamped by the court. Grounds: infidelity. Exhibit A. A brief note describing the timeline of her affair, supported by attached documentation, screenshots, GPS logs, timestamped footage. It wasn't everything, just enough. Her hands must have started shaking. I imagine she stared at the words for a full minute before reaching for her phone. The text came at 11:43 a.m. What is this? I waited exactly 20 seconds, then replied, me, you can ask Mark. Nothing else. She didn't respond. Not right away. She came home 5 hours later. Early. That alone told me everything. The moment the front door opened, I heard her breath catch. Not a sigh, not a sob, just that sharp inhale people make when reality kicks them in the chest. I stayed seated in the living room, the same spot I used to wait up for her in. Funny how that chair had become something different now, something like a throne. She stood in the doorway, holding the envelope like it might burn her fingers. Her voice came out raw, uncertain. Why would you do this? I looked at her, quiet for a beat. I think you know why. Her eyes were red, but no tears yet. Just the kind of watery panic that can't decide if it's about guilt or fear of consequence. You blindsided me at work, she said, trying to regain some footing. You couldn't have just talked to me first? I did, I said calmly. Every time I asked where you were going. Every time I asked why you smelled like someone else's cologne. Every time I sat at this table and waited while you came home at midnight talking about networking and client dinners. Her lip quivered, but she didn't move. You're overreacting. That one almost made me laugh. Almost. You were drinking wine out of our wedding glasses with another man. In our living room. On the couch I paid for. While I was gone. She flinched. I didn't think you knew. She started. Then stopped herself. There it was. I leaned forward slightly, elbows on my knees. That's the part one want to understand, I said. Did you ever think I didn't know? Silence. She dropped her eyes. A single tear broke loose. Not for me. Not for us. For the realization that her arrogance had limits, and she'd finally found them. I didn't know how to stop it, she said. You didn't want to, I replied. She took a shaky step forward. Please, we can fix this. We can go to counseling. I wasn't thinking straight. You were thinking plenty straight, I said. You just weren't thinking about me. Another silence. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, took a slow sip. She watched like it was a ritual. Some cold-blooded rite she didn't understand anymore. I don't hate you, I said finally, staring into the glass. I don't even want revenge. Then why the papers? Because I want peace. And I can't get that with a woman who thinks I'm too stupid to notice her disappearing for hours with a man who drives a car I've now seen on camera 8 different times. Her voice cracked. What am I supposed to do now? I looked at her and said, start over. Same as I'm doing. Just without the lies. She didn't speak again that night. Just stood there, quiet, crumbling in slow motion. And for the first time in years I went to bed early. Alone. And unbothered. The next week was a hailstorm of desperation disguised as diplomacy. She texted more in 3 days than she had in the past 3 months. Can we please talk? I don't want to throw everything away. Let's at least try therapy. All the classics. Half guilt, half performance. And not once did she say she was sorry. Not once did she admit it out loud. On Wednesday night, she cornered me in the kitchen. I was chopping carrots. She stood behind me, fidgeting with the hem of her sleeve like it owed her an explanation. I think we rushed into this, she said. I think we're both reacting instead of working through it. I didn't look up, just kept slicing. I mean, divorce? Isn't that extreme? No, I said. Extreme is screwing someone else in your husband's house and hoping the couch cushions hide the evidence. She went pale. Then, in a blink, the mask changed. The sadness twisted into something sharper. Her voice raised half a pitch. If you're trying to humiliate me into walking away, it won't work, she snapped. I have rights too, you know. If you want to fight, I'll take my share. I finally turned around. Calm. No rage. No slammed cabinet doors. Just the kind of quiet that makes people nervous. From the drawer under the microwave, I pulled out a manila folder. Clean. Unassuming. I handed it to her. She hesitated, then opened it. Inside, a printed spreadsheet. Neatly organized. Color-coded. Column A, transaction type. Column B, date. Column C, location. Column D, purpose. Column E, notes, video ref, screenshot ref, GPS ping, etc. Every ATM withdrawal she made under the excuse of office lunch. Every missing $42.50 that didn't go to gas. Every dinner she billed as client outreach, but paid for with the same card she used at Victoria's Secret 10 minutes earlier. And every time she had Mark over, I had that too. Time-stamped visits. Matched with when she told me she was staying late or networking downtown. There were photos, still frames, even a receipt from a liquor store 5 blocks from his condo, billed to our joint card. Her hands started to shake halfway down the first page. You kept all of this? She whispered. No, I said. I built it. I didn't realize. No. I cut in sharper now. You didn't care. She looked up at me, red-faced. This doesn't change the fact that I'm still legally entitled to. You're entitled to what you've earned, I said. This folder proves what you've spent. I stepped closer, dropped my voice to a near whisper. You lied to a man who still paid your phone bill, who replaced your tires when you said you felt unsafe on the freeway, who kept your mother's birthday on his calendar because you always forgot. You lied to that man like he was nothing. She looked away. I wasn't done. And now, I said, it's time to pay mine. She didn't respond, didn't yell, didn't throw the folder across the room like in some bad movie. She just stood there, quiet, defeated, the paper in her hands suddenly feeling heavier than anything she'd ever carried. Later that night, I heard her on the phone in the guest room, crying, whispering to someone. I'm guessing not Mark. Maybe a friend. Maybe no one. I didn't eavesdrop. I just updated the spreadsheet. One final entry. Wednesday, 9:47 p.m. Transaction. Emotional realization. Location, kitchen by the sink. Purpose. Damage control. Notes, too late. Because by now, she didn't just suspect I was ahead. She knew. And there was no catching up. The courtroom was quiet in that antiseptic, fluorescent kind of way that makes everything feel suspended. Like you're underwater, but somehow every sound still rings loud. There were maybe a dozen people in the gallery. None of them who mattered. Just bored interns, clerks, and a woman with a Bluetooth earpiece clicking her pen in rhythmic bursts. She sat across from me at the other table, dressed in the kind of outfit you pick when you want to look professional and pitiful. Gray pencil skirt, soft blouse, no lipstick, hair down like she was trying to channel modesty, like if she just looked like someone who'd been wronged, the facts might soften. Her lawyer, an eager younger guy who clearly thought he was going to finesse his way into a sympathy ruling, stood and began reading a prepared statement. Words like support, contribution, sacrifices, shared future. It all blurred together. I'd read it in the pretrial docs. Knew the rhythm of it already. Classic Hail Mary. Then it was our turn. Janine stood, calm as ever, and without saying much, slid the binder across the table to the judge. It wasn't flashy. No dramatic cover. Just a black 3-ring with a simple label. Exhibit said, Financial and Behavioral Record. The judge, a woman in her late 50s with a face like carved marble, opened it. She flipped. Still frames from security footage. Text messages. Location logs. Spending history. The exact moment my wife poured wine into our wedding glasses while laughing with another man on our couch. Neatly captioned and dated. She flipped again. A copy of my wife's hotel rewards activity. Matched against weekends she told me she was at women's retreats. Matched again against timestamps where Mark's car was spotted outside. Then the judge looked up. "This is compelling," she said flatly. Not warm. Not cruel. Just the sound of judgment landing on bone. My wife's lawyer stammered something about emotional context, and not all marriages are perfect. The judge silenced him with a glance. She turned to me. "Mr. Harris, do you have anything you'd like to say?" I looked at my lawyer. She nodded. I stood slowly. "I gave her a life she didn't have to lie about," I said. "She built something else. Privately. Repeatedly. All I did was document it." Silence. The judge nodded once. "Request for alimony denied. Property division per premarital structure. No further motions." Gavel. Just like that, it was done. She didn't look at me immediately. She just stared at her lawyer. Like he might have missed something. Like there must have been a line he forgot to read that would rewind the past 6 months. But there wasn't. I gathered my things. Didn't have much, just the binder and a pen, and turned toward the aisle. As I passed her, I heard her whisper. Soft. Frayed. "You planned this." I paused. Just enough to let it sink in. Then I turned my head halfway and said quietly, "You said, don't wait up." A breath. I didn't. I moved on. I didn't stop walking. Didn't look back. Outside, the sky was overcast. Street vendors were firing up hot dog stands. Life continued. I stepped into it, not as a broken man, not as a victim, but as someone who didn't just survive betrayal. I turned it into a blueprint, and walked away with the house.